I still remember the exact moment my heart cracked open like glass under a boot. I was standing in my parents' living room, the same room where I had blown out birthday candles every year since I was 5. The afternoon light poured through the lace curtains Mom had hung 20 years ago, and I could smell the coffee she always brewed too strong. My name is Emily Harper, 28 years old, and until that day I believed family was the one thing no one could ever take from you. I grew up in a modest, 2-story house on Maplewood Drive, the kind of street where every neighbor knew your name and waved when you walked the dog. Dad was a high school football coach who taught me to never quit. Mom was the heart of everything. PTA president, Sunday patrost maker. The woman who kissed my forehead every night, even when I was 17 and thought I was too old for it. They called me their miracle girl because I came along after they'd almost given up hope. I believed every word. After college, I landed a solid job as a marketing coordinator at a small tech firm downtown. I wasn't rich, but I was proud. I paid my own bills, saved every extra dollar, and still managed to help my parents when Dad's knee surgery left them short 1 month. That's what families do, right? Then Grandma Rose passed. She was my dad's mother, the quiet, elegant woman who never raised her voice but somehow ran the entire family with gentle steel. In her will, she left me exactly $147,000, every penny she'd saved from teaching piano for 40 years. The lawyer read the amount aloud and I actually laughed out loud from pure joy. Mom hugged me so tight I could feel her tears on my neck. Dad clapped me on the back and said, "We'll make sure this money works for you, sweetheart. Family first." That sentence should have been my warning. They sat me down that same evening at the kitchen table, the one with the burn mark from when I was 8 and tried to make pancakes alone. Mom poured me her too strong coffee, and Dad slid a folder across the wood. "We found the perfect opportunity," he said. Their voices were warm, excited. They wanted to invest every cent into expanding Dad's coaching business, a new indoor facility, better equipment, scholarships for underprivileged kids. "It'll triple in value in 5 years," Mom promised, eyes shining. "And when it does, you'll have your own house, your dream wedding, everything." I trusted them. Why wouldn't I? They'd never lied to me. I signed the papers without reading every line. I even hugged them both and whispered, "Thank you for always protecting me." The first year felt like a fairy tale. Dad sent me quarterly updates with fake charts and smiling photos of kids in new uniforms. Mom kept texting heart emojis, "And we're building your future, baby girl." I was dating a kind man named Alex, planning a life, feeling like the luckiest daughter alive, but little cracks started appearing if you looked close enough. Dad bought a new truck, cash. Mom started wearing designer bags she'd never been able to afford. When I asked, they laughed it off. "The business is doing better than expected, that's all." Then came the day everything tilted. It was a Tuesday in October. I'd just been promoted and wanted to surprise them with dinner. I let myself in with the spare key like always. The house smelled different, no coffee, just expensive candles and silence. Mom was on the phone in the kitchen, voice low and sharp. I only caught the end. "She doesn't need to know. It's our money now." My stomach dropped. I stepped into the doorway and she spun around, face pale. Dad walked in from the garage carrying golf clubs I'd never seen before. "Emily," Mom said, forcing a smile. "We were just talking about you." I asked them straight out, where was my money? The real numbers? Dad sighed like I was a child throwing a tantrum. Mom's eyes turned cold in a way I'd never seen. "Sweetheart," she said, "we invested it. It's tied up. You're still young. You don't understand business." I pushed. I begged. I cried. That's when they said the words that still echo in my nightmares. Dad looked me dead in the eye and said, "We're done carrying you. You're cut out. From the will, from this family, from everything. We gave you life. You owe us," Mom added, voice flat. "And if you make trouble, we'll tell everyone you're ungrateful and unstable." I stood there in the house I grew up in, shaking so hard my teeth chattered. The girl who once believed her parents hung the moon was suddenly homeless in her own heart. They changed the locks. The next week, I slept in my car for 3 nights, parked behind the old Walmart, crying until my eyes swelled shut. I called my best friend Sarah at 2 a.m., and she came and held me while I whispered, "They took everything. They took me." That was the hook. The moment I realized, blood doesn't always mean love. But what I didn't know that freezing October night was that the biggest plot twist was still coming, and it was going to be written in a courtroom, signed by a judge, and sealed with 3 times the money they stole. The days after they disowned me blurred into a gray fog I couldn't escape. I moved into Sarah's spare room, sleeping on a pull-out couch that smelled like old laundry detergent. Every morning I woke up thinking it was a nightmare, then checked my phone and saw the same blocked numbers. Mom had changed hers. Dad had posted on Facebook about toxic adult children who drained their parents. The comments from aunts and uncles were brutal. "So sorry you're dealing with this. Praying for you both." No one asked how I was. I tried calling. The first time Mom answered and said, "Emily, stop embarrassing us," then hung up. The second time it went straight to voicemail, a new recording that didn't even have my name. At work I smiled like nothing was wrong, but inside I was hollow. I stopped eating properly. My hair started falling out in the shower. Alex tried to be patient, but after 2 months of me canceling dates because I couldn't stop crying, he gently said he needed space. Even the man I thought might propose one day walked away. I didn't blame him. Who wants to date a girl whose own parents erased her? The worst part was the memories that kept ambushing me. I'd be buying groceries and suddenly remember Mom teaching me how to make her famous lasagna. Or I'd hear a coach whistle at the park and see Dad's proud face the day I scored my first soccer goal. Every happy childhood moment turned into a knife. I started researching what they'd done. I wasn't a lawyer, but I wasn't stupid. Grandma's will had been clear. The money was mine. They'd had me sign a family investment agreement that smelled wrong. I printed every email, every text, every bank statement I could get my hands on. The numbers didn't lie. Almost the entire $147,000 had been moved into personal accounts within 6 months. New boat, new vacation to Bali, Mom's retirement fund. My future had become their luxury. I confronted them one last time at their front door on Christmas Eve. I stood in the freezing rain, holding printed proof. Dad opened the door, wearing the cashmere sweater I'd bought him 2 years earlier. "Leave," he said before I could speak. "You're not welcome here anymore." Mom stood behind him, arms crossed, eyes empty. "We raised you. We sacrificed. This is how you repay us." I begged, I screamed. I fell to my knees on their welcome mat and sobbed so hard I threw up. They closed the door. The porch light went off. That night I drove to the river where Dad used to take me fishing, and I screamed until my throat bled. I felt completely destroyed, not just broke, but erased. Like I had never existed in their story. Sarah finally dragged me to a free legal clinic downtown. I sat in a plastic chair, shaking, while a tired volunteer lawyer named Marcus listened to my story. He didn't look shocked. He'd heard versions of this before. "Emily," he said quietly, "this isn't just family drama. This is financial abuse. We can fight." I laughed through tears. "With what?" "They took every cent." He smiled for the first time. "With the truth, and with me, that was the turning point." The moment pain began to harden into something sharper, Marcus spent weeks building the case. He found hidden transfers, forged signatures on later documents, even recordings from a neighbor who'd overheard Mom bragging at a backyard barbecue about finally getting what we deserved from that inheritance. Meanwhile, I was barely surviving. I picked up extra shifts at a coffee shop on weekends. I sold my grandmother's old jewelry, the only thing they couldn't touch, just to eat. Every night I lay awake, replaying their words. "You're cut out. You owe us." The betrayal wasn't just about money anymore. It was the way they'd weaponized my love. They'd raised me to trust them, then used that trust like a blade. I hit rock bottom the night I almost called them again. My finger hovered over the old home number for 20 minutes before I deleted it forever. That was the moment I stopped being their daughter and started becoming someone new. Someone who would never again hand her future to anyone, not even blood. I told Marcus I was ready, whatever it took. He looked at me across his messy desk and said, "Good. Because we're about to make them feel exactly what you felt." Little did I know how true that would become. The courtroom smelled like old wood and nervous sweat. I sat at the plaintiff's table in the only black dress I owned, hands folded so tight my knuckles were white. Mom and Dad sat across the aisle, looking smaller than I remembered. Dad's new truck was gone. Mom's designer bags had been replaced by a plain purse she clutched like a shield. Marcus stood up and began. He laid out every transfer, every lie, every cruel text. The judge, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s, listened without expression. But I saw her eyes flicker when Marcus played the neighbor's recording of Mom, laughing about finally getting what we deserved. My parents' lawyer tried to paint me as ungrateful, unstable, spoiled. Every word felt like another slap, until Marcus called me to the stand. I didn't cry. Not once. I looked straight at the two people who once tucked me in and told them exactly how it felt to be erased. I described sleeping in my car, the hair falling out, the way my own body betrayed me with panic attacks. I spoke quietly, but every word landed like a hammer. When I finished, the courtroom was silent except for Mom's soft, broken sob. The judge ruled in my favor in less than 20 minutes. Not only did they have to return the original $147,000, the court awarded triple damages for breach of fiduciary duty and emotional distress, $441,000. Dad's face went gray. Mom covered her mouth with both hands like she was trying to push the scream back inside, but it wasn't over. The judge also ordered them to sell the house I grew up in, to satisfy the judgment. Their new boat, the truck, the vacation fund. Everything. I walked out of that courtroom into bright spring sunlight, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Air in my lungs. Real air. 3 weeks later, the check cleared. I stared at the number on my phone for a full minute before I started laughing and crying at the same time. Sarah danced around the kitchen with me like we'd won the lottery. Because, in a way, we had. I didn't spend it on revenge. I bought a small one-bedroom condo. Nothing fancy, but mine. I started a scholarship in Grandma Rose's name for girls who lose their families. And I paid for therapy, real therapy, where I learned to speak the words I was abused, out loud without flinching. Mom tried to call once. Her voice was small on the voicemail. "Emily, we're so sorry. Can we talk?" I never called back. Dad sent a letter. 1 page. We were wrong. We lost everything. I read it once, folded it neatly, and filed it under lessons. Some people say revenge tastes sweet. Mine tasted like justice, clean, final, and 3 times as powerful as the pain they caused. Today I stand taller. I smile easier. I trust slower, but deeper. If you're listening and your own family has ever made you feel worthless, hear this. Blood does not give them permission to break you. You are allowed to protect yourself. You are allowed to fight back with truth and with law and with every ounce of strength you have left. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe makes sure they pay triple. My name is Emily Harper. I was disowned. I was robbed. And I rose. Thank you for letting me tell you my story. Now go. Protect your own heart.